Hey, it's Laura Lynn jumping in. Before we get into this episode, I just want you to know it's a little different because, for one, I was not the one asking the questions. I was on the other side of the mirror, so to speak. I'm bringing it back this month because some of what I said here still surprises me when I listen to it again. And if you've read my book, Who Do You Think You Are? This conversation is really where a lot of that book started to take shape out loud. So here it is again, my story, this time from the other side of the chair. What does it mean to watch someone you love begin something you've already lived? That's what today's episode is about. It's short and sweet and thought-provoking. Let's dive in. Well, hello, and welcome to Story Sessions, where your story matters. I'm your host, Laura Lynn Donahue, and each week we gather for meaningful conversations rooted in lived experience. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Story Sessions, where your story matters. I'm your host, Laura Lynn, and today I am sharing a current story with you. And I just got to thinking, isn't that what this show is about? Is sharing story. As we live our lives daily, we are creating our story, aren't we? So that's really what I want to do. I want to tell you a story. Tell you a story about this past weekend. I flew down to see my daughter Eliza in Florida, and we went shopping for her wedding dress. Talk about sobering and exciting and full circle. All the things. So much emotion inside of me, in her, as one can imagine seeing a loved one, whether it's a child or a niece or nephew or someone significant in your life, stepping into their new chapter, while at the same time you're stepping into a new chapter of your own. So really that's what I experienced with Eliza this weekend. She's getting married in April 2027. We are so excited. I had sent Eliza 3 generations of wedding dresses ahead of time. One was my grandmother's from the 1920s. The other was my mother's from the 1960s. And then there was my dress from 1993. So we had a bit of nostalgia there, just to represent the generational changes and the different looks through the decades, the era, the style of the times, if you will. So with those dresses in mind, we set out to find Eliza's dress. A few of her friends joined us, and I don't know, talk about surreal, maybe deja vu in a sense. At each of the 2 shops that we visited, all lovely, beautiful setting, wedding dresses all over the place, hanging up. So much opportunity, so to speak. So much opportunity for expressing yourself. How do you want to feel as a bride? Do you want to be a princess? Do you want to be elegant, modern? Do you want to be simple and less adorned in the dress that you choose. Of course, the choices are overwhelming. It was no different for us, but we did have help picking out dresses. And as I sat there on the couch, drinking some champagne, perhaps to calm the nerves a little bit, I watched my little girl. She's my youngest daughter, and she's the first to get married. I didn't go back to the dressing room with her. So the shopkeeper who was helping us each time dressed her in a different gown, and Eliza walked out. I think the first time she walked out in a wedding dress, I I don't know if I was experiencing a bit of shock. I think I was just getting used to the fact that I was changing my role. My role was different. I wasn't wearing the dress. Um, I'd never seen my daughter in a dress. And by the time we got to the second or third dress, and Eliza standing in the three-way mirror with us sitting behind her, and she's asking for feedback and comments, I basically just honed in on her face in that mirror and listened to her talk. And if you remember the Scooby-Doo cartoons where he would dream and it would be like "Blur, blur," that kind of go back, that's kind of how I felt. Like my body was floating back to 1993 and looking at that image of Eliza in the mirror reflecting back at me. Her image became me. Now, it does help that we look a lot alike, and we have similar mannerisms. But I recall thinking as a bride-to-be in my wedding dress that I wanted to go for something more simple, less ornate, and more classic. And as I looked at Eliza, she said basically the very same thing. She said she wanted something simple. And as I watched her mouth those words, it was me saying it back in the mirror. Well, hopefully you can get that visual. I had an experience of transformation, I'd say. I went from the understanding that I was no longer the bride, that I was the mother of the bride, and I was watching my little girl step into a role that I had lived. And the reality, the stark reality of that brought to me thoughts of my own mortality, and not in a I'm dying way necessarily, but as you get to your 50s, maybe, I'm getting toward the end of my 50s. I'll be 57 at the end of this month. I really think with each year, or perhaps even every week, a little something changes about how I feel about this second part of my life, that this story is writing itself in a way that I haven't seen myself before. I think often about the years that I have left, and again, not in a dark way, but in a way of feeling like my time is limited. Whereas as a younger person growing up, I hadn't really thought so much about being closer to the end, which makes sense because I wasn't, but now I am. And if you are a similar age or older, you may experience a very kindred spirit. Just how did I get here? How did I get to this age so quickly? And how is it possible that I'm sitting here watching my little girl step into a new role? I see in that moment windows closing, that I'm the center of attention window, that I am the bride window. Those are closing. They have closed. But there are also doors that are opening. And I do think that sometimes I don't know where that door is or what door I need to open. But we find it. We find the door. And if it's not the right one, then we'll know soon enough. And part of the process, I suppose, is not always getting it right. But this door that I opened, this portal, if you will, this weekend, was the door to Mother of the Bride, the door to my chapter as Mother of the Bride. It has created in me, what you would say is a mindset shift, thinking of myself in a different role. And I just wondered, as I pondered this question, what does it mean to watch someone you love begin something you've already lived? What does that mean? I think that is a good question for us to ask ourselves in reflection, in helping us define who we are going forward, not put ourselves in a box, but helping lay out the path, helping us set the scene. I think that is important when your roles are changing and you watch someone step into a role that you've already lived. What does that mean to you? In the present, in the very present for me, there's so much joy there. And this moment is about Eliza. This moment is one of excitement, and it also is a foreshadowing, perhaps, of my other 4 children, and not necessarily in the role of bride or groom, or married or not, but just in the roles of change, of chapter definition of our story. And our stories don't end. The memoir that I wrote is not the end of my story. Basically, I started another story, or I continued my story. I've added to my story. And that is really important to remember, that our stories don't end. Our stories become as we become. Our stories change as we change. Our stories grow as we grow. And there is wisdom to reap in that transformation. So again, I want you to think back or think ahead to an event in someone else's life that perhaps suddenly made you see your own life differently, your own role differently. I'd love for you to think about that question even more after you've thought about that question and you've come up with an answer. I'd love for you to write to me. My email is Laura Lynn, LauraLyn at storysessions.live. That's Laura Lynn at storysessions.live. Send me your story. Send me your reflection. I don't need it to be long, but I think that if you, as my listener, perhaps you're sitting watching this on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, I want to give you the opportunity to interact, to share. And if we can start there with email, please send me a moment in your life that changed you because of the role of someone else in your life changing. And I'd like to do at some point a listener episode where I read your emails and have a whole episode about that where we can talk about story. So that's it for this week. It's just short and sweet, a moment for me to pop in and share my real life in the moment with you. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your being here. I appreciate you passing along the podcast. Favorite it, but most importantly, follow it. And follow it on all the platforms. Share it with a friend, put it on socials, whatever you can do to help me get the word out. Because the word or the words aren't about me. The words are your story matters. Your story matters. And it's worth hearing. So thank you so much. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much for listening to Story Sessions, where your story matters. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone you know. To learn more about the Story Sessions family, visit storysessions.live. That's storysessions.live. Thanks so much and see you next week.